Hello and welcome to the show tonight. I am here with none other than Tim Echols, who is the Georgia's Public Service Commissioner. And so, with that, Tim, would you tell us? Make sure your mic is on, and make sure you let's tell everybody what the Georgia Public Commissioner does and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. The Public Service Commission was started way back in 1879 when trains were the latest technology. We were the Railroad Commission back then. And as other technologies were invented, telegraph, natural gas, electricity, anything along the right of way became the issues, the technologies that the legislature had us regulate. And so even today, we regulate most everything on the right of way, including that call before you dig 811. If you see those guys out there laying fiber or laying gas lines or water lines, they have to call 811. And then if they hit someone else's facility, then we are enforcing that, finding people for that. We also, believe it or not, oversee the distributions of hearing aids that are paid for by the state to low income people that are hearing impaired. So there's quite a few things under our purview, but most folks know us for regulating energy.
All right, and I think so. Before we get, you tell me you're a Christian there, so tell us about your faith journey and what led you to come into politics. Or does that
Yeah,
have a twofold? Yeah.
yeah, sure. When I was 11 years old, I was at a revival meeting at the Rock Baptist Church on 42 Highway down in Rex, Georgia, in Clayton County. And Colonel Irwin, the astronaut, was giving his testimony. He had just been to the moon with Neil Armstrong, and he was sharing his testimony about being in space, looking back on Earth, realizing just how great God was and how none of this was an accident. And I was sitting on the front row as an 11-year-old, and as I heard that, and especially his message about Christ coming to save me from my sins, I went to my pastor's office right after that meeting and got down on my knees that night and asked Christ to come into my life. And so I'm so grateful that that Colonel Irwin was there and that my parents took me to church, because there's been nothing more important to me in my life than my faith in Christ.
Yeah. So, what age did you start in politics? Service were you in to do that in?
Yeah, I was at North Clayton High School over in College Park, and we played Rockdale County. By the way, that was
Oh wow.
that was one of the schools, and we played Newton County. Went down to LaGrange, and but I ran for sophomore class president when I was 14 against the captain of the cheerleaders, and
Oh wow.
I really wasn't supposed to beat Judy Jackson. She was really sweet, but I beat her, and I haven't lost an election since. So so by
There
God's
you go.
grace, I was vice president of the school and the president of the school, and then I ran for the Baptist Student Union president at the University of Georgia, and then raised a family. I have 7 children, live in Jackson County, and when I was 49, the seat opened up on the Public Service Commission, and I ran for that against actually the state senator from Newton County, a
Oh
really
wow.
really nice guy, a veteran, and then a representative from Walton County, from Monroe, and then a guy who had been both a senator and rep. And by God's grace and help from a lot of young people knocking on doors for me, we won the election in 2010, and I've been in the seat ever since.
Oh wow. And how many people or how many is on the Georgia Public? Because I know Bubba McDonald is one, right? And so how
Yeah.
many is on there exactly?
Yeah, Bubba McDonald. He's from the North Georgia district. We have to live in a district, so I live in the eastern part of the state. My district goes from Athens to Augusta to Savannah, and then Tricia Pridemore's over in the western part of the state, in Cobb County. Jason Shaw's in the southern part of the state, and Fitz Johnson is in Metro. But we all have to run statewide every 6 years. So it's a bit of an odd office. A lot of folks don't really pay much attention to it. They don't really see the importance of it. Of course, that's the way we like it. We want reliable electricity, and we want people in Georgia not to really have to think much about it.
Right. And so are you our representative for Rockdale and Newton?
Mm-hmm. I am. Yes, I am. I'm Rockdale and Newton County. That's kind of the edge of my district.
Okay.
And then it kind of cuts east towards Augusta and then down towards Savannah. It's a bit of an odd looking
Yeah,
district, but it encompasses most of eastern Georgia.
I got you. And like I said, I saw you on TikTok, and I'm like, I had to have this man on my show. So what drove you to do a TikTok? Are you trying to lure in younger people to get involved in politics, or what's that drive behind that?
Yeah, exactly, CJ. I think there's a different group of people on TikTok. Let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I did I did a TikTok video at Strickland's restaurant
Yeah, I've seen that one.
in Athens, and I think that thing this afternoon had 179,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with the PSC, but if you like ground sausage, they make their own there, and
So I heard.
it have you eaten there, CJ? Have you eaten it, Strickland?
I
Yeah.
haven't. I want to go eat there now that I've seen the TikTok. It looks so good.
Yeah. So, you know, I had maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I had got a TikTok account. Didn't really do very much, and my
Mm,
daughter-in-law is a Instagram influencer, and
mm,
she's talked me into uh, spending much more time working on reels and videos. So we talk every Thursday, plan out what we're going to be shooting the next week, and we normally
mm.
shoot three or four reels. She edits those down. I approve the caption and the hashtags, and then we're probably spending about $250 a week boosting Instagram posts right now, and we're going to do a lot
Oh wow.
more in the future. But we're just kind of seeing what people like. We just finished up another one in Macon for Kudzu Seafood Company, which is the best fried shrimp in Georgia.
Mm,
It hasn't hit yet, but we're
okay.
hoping friends on TikTok are really going to like fried shrimp.
I hope they do. So along with that, the TikTok and Facebook, we got data centers coming to Georgia, and I-20 is the main source right now. Seems like in Covington and Rockdale right now. So what's the
Mhm.
big plan for that and the future for those?
Yeah, and Douglasville too. So to your point, I-20 is data center corridor. We might as well just rename the highway data center corridor.
All right.
You know, I mean, obviously, Instagram, Netflix, Microsoft, AI, and who's not trying
Yeah.
or experimenting with AI. I mean, it's customer use that's driving this. This is not, they're not
Mm-hmm.
just making this stuff up and out there just doing some kind of zombie load with nobody getting a benefit from it. We're all getting the benefit from AI if we're using AI. And if you haven't tried it, just go to almost any search engine and you'll see it'll return to you. Just ask a question. Ask, how did the Public Service Commission get started, and see what
Mm-hmm.
AI has to say. And I bet it's about 95% accurate. Make sure you say
All right.
Georgia Public Service Commission. But I think because we've got substations along I-20 that have some available capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is all about where the energy is. I mean, there's no significant power plants along I-20 until you get out to Plant Vogel. So you definitely have Vogel power coming along I-20 into Covington. I mean, it's not that far from Augusta,
All right.
to Covington, but you've got substations with some available capacity. And so data centers aren't just going to locate anywhere. They've got to really coordinate with the power company to make sure that they are going to a place where they can get the power. They've actually got to sign a commitment before they even start building that data center. And then we just created some new rules to make it even, I would say, a little bit tougher. We're going to make them have a longer contract. We're going to make them have a higher minimum bill. And then we're also making them put up a letter of credit. So if their chips get more efficient and they don't need as much power as they told us they did, they're still going to be on the hook for it. What we don't want is this kind of bouncing back onto residential ratepayers.
Right.
We've had a lot of rate increases over the last 3 years. We went a decade with hardly any rate increases, but after COVID, man, it was just we didn't raise rates during COVID, and we made an adjustment, and then we had Plant Vogtle finish up, come into rate. So it's been an ugly time, I think, for Georgia ratepayers, and we don't want to have that again for quite a while.
Yeah. And so with Plant Vogtle, the project it took longer than expected and went over the budget. Was it worth it? And what are the benefits coming to Georgia for that?
CJ, sometimes when I go to conferences in California, New York, or Washington, people look down on Southerners. Unfortunately, I think there's still a little bit of prejudice against us. And I really wanted to finish this plant just to show those Northerners and those Californians that we could do something they couldn't do.
Right.
And I knew we were going to need the power. And the utility really wanted to finish it. I think if they had said, no, we're just going to give up, we could have gotten a pretty big tax write-off and just left it sitting there rusting until Jesus comes back. But I felt like, and my colleagues felt like, we need to finish this. We've started it. We're going to need the power. Let's go ahead and finish this. And of course, it did give us a real boost in our capacity. And the other thing is it's been kind of a magnet for companies that look at Georgia and go, wow, they finished a nuclear plant. That's impressive. They've got all this manufacturing. They've got the Hyundai plant. They've got Q-Cells. They've got SK Innovations. They've got the largest airport, or the busiest airport in America. They've got the fourth largest port. I think it just kind of blends in with this Georgia message that, look, this is a happening place, and we've got a lot of success going on here. Come here and your company can prosper. And the more people that come here and provide jobs, that's a good thing, I think, for our state.
Exactly. And another side on the energy side, what progress is being made on hydrogen powered vehicles? They are much cleaner than electric vehicles. Are there any updates on that?
Hydrogen, is a fickle thing. It's pretty expensive right now, but Hyundai actually makes these Class 8 hydrogen trucks. Think of just a semi tractor that would pull a container or pull a trailer. They brought 21 of them to Savannah. They've built a mobile fueling station at their plant where they're filling up these trucks, and they're just kind of running them around to the suppliers. There's a bunch of suppliers in Savannah, but Hyundai and Honda and Toyota all make a hydrogen fuel cell car. We don't have any in Georgia right now, and I don't know that that's going to take off, but I do feel like with all the restrictions on diesel right now, with it just seems like every year the EPA ramps up regs on diesel trucks, and hydrogen has about the same range as diesel, same power as diesel, and it's carbon free. It just seems like with as many trucks as we have on the road, that if these Hyundai trucks can really get going, I think there's going to be a lot of trucking firms, especially companies like UPS and others that have the money to buy them. They are, way more expensive, but it just takes a while to kind of integrate a new technology into the marketplace.
And so going back on your Christian part, I just finished writing my first book right there, Truth Unveiled. With your two books, can you share a little bit about what they mean to you and what motivated you to write them? And
I wrote a book. Yeah, I wrote a book called Real Citizenship, and it's really for teenagers who are participating in the Teen Pack program. That's TEENPACT, teampact.com.
Okay.
And this is a book that when you sign up for Teen Pack, it's in all 50 states. You read this book as kind of your pre-homework. It's a very short book. You can, read it in less than an hour and a half. But in it, I kind of talk about just the importance of courage, the importance of citizenship, of students being engaged, of learning about politics and why it matters. So that was the first book I've written, and there's probably been about 150,000 copies of those. Not a ton, but and then the second book is called John Mark of Jekyll, and you can't really buy this book on Amazon. It's really just sold on Jekyll Island, the Tubman Museum in Macon. John Mark, spelled the French way, Jean Mark, Mark of Jekyll, like Jekyll Island. And this book is it's being used by a lot of fourth grade classes now, who are visiting Jekyll Island, because I go through all the history of Jekyll Island and all the Northerners that came there in 1890, 1900, 1910. It was kind of like the West Palm Beach of, where Donald Trump lives now. And a lot of very rich people come through West Palm Beach in the winter. Jekyll Island used to be that place before there was a West Palm Beach. Jekyll Island was where all the rich New Yorkers came. So I kind of go through the history and also what was happening on the islands. The Civil War was over. African Americans were trying to get some footing. They were trying to learn jobs and skills and learn to vote, learn to read. And I kind of go through some of the island history as well. Georgia has 104 miles of coastline, and I kind of take people through the islands. This is a historical fiction book, so it's a fun story, and it will entertain you. Very clean, certainly appropriate for fourth grade kids.
Well, that's pretty cool, because I'm actually writing a historical fiction book as well. It's about the city of Conyers, and the city of Conyers has a lot of history in it. And so I'm writing like a 30 chapter book, so it's going to be pretty big. I'm on chapter 13 now, but yeah, it's a lot to write a big historical book like that. And
awesome.
So you told us about Teen Pack. What inspired you? Started the ministry, so what inspired you and motivated you to do that?
I was involved, of course, with student council as a high school student, and as I got to know more about the legislature, I felt like, wow, we need more Christians in particular engaged in the political process. And so I came up with this idea to write this curriculum to get kids to the Capitol during the legislative session, and for them to write their own bill, debate their own bill, meet their legislator, meet judges, meet lobbyists, meet the governor, meet their representative, even do prayer walks. Our groups go out in the morning and they'll pray for the governor, the lieutenant governor, their representative, and they interview lobbyists. There's so many lobbyists at the Capitol. I mean, there's thousands of people there every day during the legislative session. But if you go during the summer, there's nobody there. I wanted kids to go there when everybody was there, when all the laws were being made, so that they could get an idea of what it was like, and hopefully want to be involved the rest of their life in influencing their legislator, letting their voice be heard, and doing it in a respectful way. I am all about kids learning to shake hands, ask good questions, look people in the eye, being respectful. Those are all really important values to me, and I embedded those into Teen Pack.
Well, I like that idea, and so I'm gonna have to hook up with you one day and meet you at the Capitol one day, if that sounds good with you.
Yeah, we can. We'll make some videos.
Yeah, make some videos, make some content on the way.
Yeah.
So what is as we close, let's see, what is the most pressing issues facing Georgia and ratepayers right now?
I think the data centers is the most pressing issue for us as we try to roll out the red carpet for companies, but yet do it in a way that doesn't impact ratepayers. And I think the governor would say that tort reform is absolutely something he's willing to invest a lot of political capital in. I think you're you're going to hear more and more. I think you're going to see a bill probably pass and get signed that's going to kind of reel in some of these judgments that's going on with lawsuits, making it more expensive for businesses to operate. I think as we think about, so many people coming into Georgia, our churches out there are growing. We've got great ministries. I think we want to keep Georgia a friendly place for ministries and churches to operate. That's something we always have to be mindful of. And then, just our technical colleges. I'll be speaking to one of the tech colleges this coming week. We need kids who maybe wind up working at a McDonald's or places where they're not making as much money to consider going to technical college and getting a skill like welding or, sheet metal or a motorsports technology. One of my sons has a motorsports technology degree. He's a police officer now. So we always, I think, need to be mindful of helping our kids out there advance, get the most education that they can, and to be able to support their families, to be able to prosper. I think that's an important biblical value of supporting your family, and there's certainly nothing wrong with being successful. That's how our churches thrive and nonprofits thrive. As God leads us to give money to help these organizations, I think we need to keep that on the front burner.
Yeah, I agree, because two of my nephews one's an electrician and one's a welder, and they're like in their 20s and like early or late teens. So, but they're in Florida, but still the same impact. So, but
Yeah.
so the last question is, what's ahead for Tim Echols, and what are your hopes and goals for the future?
I'm 64. I've got 4 grandsons who I love spending time with. So I think I want to continue to invest time in my grandsons. I have 7 children. Some of my kids are planning on having kids. So I do plan on having a bunch more grandkids. So I think, keeping family right there, taking those grandkids with me on trips and, to the Capitol and teaching them how it all works. And by God's grace, I'll get reelected this year. I'm on the ballot June, 3rd Tuesday in June for the primary, and then November 4th. So there's nothing on the ballot this year but cities and me, and my colleague Fitz Johnson. He's got his own, he'll have his own opponent. So we don't know who our opponents are yet. Qualifying is not until April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But by God's grace, I will continue to serve. If I lose my race, then I'm sure God has something else that He wants me to do that I'll focus on. I really view this job as a ministry anyway. So it's where God has me serving now, and I would hope that whatever happens, I'll say, well, Lord, here am I, send me. Just let me know what you want me to do next.
I really like that, and I think we need more politicians geared toward that way as well.
Amen.
Ministry focused, but making it a public thing to do, and don't be afraid of it. It's church and state. Don't worry about it. It will fall into place where it needs to. But I really appreciate you taking the time out tonight and coming in here with me tonight. And like I said, we'll make a date to join you at the Capitol there.
That's great. Thanks a lot, CJ. We'll see you guys later.
All right. Stay right there, and I'll get with you in just a second. All right.
Okay.
Oh, I think we just had one question. Give me a second. Let me pull that up. Georgia Power strategies regarding data centers to pay higher rates over 109 megawatts versus residential customers having to fund data centers power. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the question, but this new rule that we set up is for any load over 100 megawatts. And so if you think about 100 megawatts, that's about 100 Walmarts. That's what it takes to power 100 Walmarts. And so to the question asker, we anticipate as we add this load that it's actually going to slightly reduce residential rates. Not that much, maybe $1 to $2 per month because we already have the customers lined up. So it's not like we're building this for spec. We have the customers, we're building it for them. They're going to be paying all the costs to get it online. So we are not anticipating it raising residential rates.
Okay, so that was the main concerns of my people here was the raising the rates from the data centers. You know, making sure the data centers are getting the most of their rates and not doing it. You know, passing
Yeah.
on to us.
Yeah, they need to pay their share. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, if they're getting 80% of this new capacity, they should be paying for 80% of it. Exactly.
That sounds great. So yeah, and if we ever have any more questions, and I'd like to have you back on again, maybe in the future. So thank you again, sir.
Thanks, CJ.